the Shed. I'm here with Pete Bond, and I'm so excited because this is our first interview. And let's just start off. So, who are you? What are you doing now? And where are you?
Um, I was spent 28 years at the Metropolitan Opera playing in the trumpet section. Started out on second, and then when my friend and colleague Jim Pandolfi retired, I moved over to third. I like to say further from the scene of the crime, but anyway, I slid over to third, which is a little bit more interesting chair than second, a little more soloistic and some more opportunities. And so I retired in 2020. Spurred on a little bit by COVID. I was planning to stay a couple years more, but COVID shut down the opera house, and it was silly for me to hang on. So, and then I moved back to New Mexico, where I had started my symphony career with the New Mexico Symphony in the late '80s. So, and we really loved it here. So, my wife and I bought a place here in the East Mountains, east of Albuquerque, and I'm now in my retirement shed. And I'm still practicing as much as I ever did, but I just don't have to sit through Madame Butterfly or Norma or any of that, that kind of. I miss my colleagues, but some of the
Of
operas I
course.
don't miss too much.
And you're in beautiful scenery with all of
It's
your trumpet,
gorgeous here. Yeah,
all
it's
the
it's
things to
really
do.
beautiful. Yeah, yeah.
Sounds so nice. Did you ever know that you would be going back to New Mexico? Did you think your
We
career would
always flirted with the idea, um, and we had friends here, and I actually have colleagues from the Met and other places who are moving here. So
wow.
uh, I have Tony Lipton, who retired after 30 plus years in bassoon. She lives up in Santa Fe, and so there's a lot of people here. Actually, I was oddly I was hired to play when I moved out here. The first thing I played was Traviata.
I know I
But 10
saw that. I
people in
was
the
like, we're
orchestra,
doing
yeah,
it.
there were 10 people in the orchestra from my days 30 years
Wow.
ago being here. So
Oh,
there was,
that
kind
makes
of like an
amazing.
old home week.
Yeah,
Uh,
coming home.
yeah, a little bit. And I love the food. So, you
Hmm.
know, and it's very peaceful and I like seeing the sky and the sunsets are amazing and blah, blah. I sound like a travel log or, someone
Well,
from the Chamber of
you've
Commerce.
convinced me. I'm booking the trip. Um, so one of the reasons why I originally wanted to talk was about your book, The Singing
Okay.
Trumpet. And before you tell us all about it, I was really happy to remember that I actually had a little loose leaf copy that you gave me probably about like 10 years ago that was just a couple things that you were thinking of
Okay.
when it
Yeah.
was back in maybe the idea stage or something like that. And
Yeah.
so
Very
it's
early.
cool
Yeah.
to see how everything has changed and developed. Of course, like so many things have happened. So tell us about your book and what it is and all of that.
Okay, well, let's see. Um, Here, this is what it looks like. So it's a lot more substantial. I mean, there's 184 pages. It could have been bigger. The publisher said if you make it any larger, we have to charge too much money for it, and you can't sell it.
Good reason.
Or it's a marketing problem, and it's in two parts. First part is theory, and that's mostly text and funny pictures, cartoons, and I find that a lot of players will they'll both respond to and remember diagrams and pictures more than text. And I found that extra helpful when a student comes to me and maybe or I've taught people from Czechoslovakia and Puerto Rico and Mexico and stuff. And when there's a language problem, I can show them the picture and they go, "Oh," and it's I didn't intend it for that reason, but it's been a very helpful teaching it, crossing that language boundary. But the crux of the book is, and I developed this after I got to the Met. My background is very unconventional. I didn't go to any fancy conservatories or wonderful music camps or, that kind of thing. I was a drum and bugle corps guy and a real meathead, and then I had to and I got into a college by the skin of my teeth and then had to play, catch up for the next, 10, 20 years. And I still feel like I'm doing that. But in any case, so the book is a little unconventional, and the basis is using singing and speech as literal models. And in other words, we practice out of Bordonian, Conconian, stuff like that. And we want to sound like a singer, and we claim we want to, sound like singers, but we use a pedagogy that's completely different. So, and the first thing that I'll do with a master class or a student is, and people can try this at home, I have them put their hand on their sternum and blow out birthday candles. Yeah. Now, take a nice breath and sing a note. Could be anything. Da, ah, ah. Yeah, exactly. And then I have them blow out the birthday candles once again. And then I ask, do you notice anything different under your hand between when you sing and you blow? And sometimes they'll say, oh, yeah, it vibrates when I sing. And I go, well, yes, but there's something else. And I'll give you a hint. I can see it. Okay? And the chest collapses when you blow, but it stays elevated when you sing. So your body's using, singing and blowing are completely different activities. The body uses air in a completely different way. And we're trained to blow. And you say, of course, you moron, it's a wind instrument. But I think that's a bit of a, misnomer. So, and plus, here I am at the opera, and we have these Sitzprobe rehearsals, which is a rehearsal for those who don't know. They also in Italy they call it a prova. But anyway, it's a rehearsal with the orchestra, conductor, and then behind the orchestra are the principal singers, and we go through and rehearse tempi and interpretation and stuff. But the singers are basically standing right behind the trumpet section because they, trumpets are in the back of the orchestra where they can behave badly. And anyway, and these singers, of course, are amazing. Any one of them can bury 100-piece orchestra, and they sound fantastic doing it. And they're not doing histrionic breathing. They're not turning red in the face. And I'm holding a trumpet and going, what if I do what they do? And all of them have this. Yeah, so keeping the chest elevated when you play, I call it opera star posture or superhero posture. You look like, Superman or Wonder Woman or something like that. And there's a reason, that Maurice Andre and Doc Schutzer and Doc Severinsen and people, they look like that. All right, there's a reason. Okay. Anyway, so I said, can I use these things? And I want to move the engine from here to there, but everything else I want to keep pretty much the same until I get to the very upper register when the physics of the instrument change a little bit. So that's kind of what it's like. That's the whole basis of it. So I'm going to articulate like I talk, ta 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 ta, instead of some strangeness. This is a thing. This is a diagram from the book. I lifted this right out of a Brass Methods book, and then I put my own symbol on it.
I love it.
Yeah. So almost no one speaks like that.
Mm-hmm.
Some people do, but almost no one. And there's a number of reasons. But anyway, you've been speaking since you were a toddler. You're going to do it more fluently and naturally and reflexively than any learned kind of thing. So da 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 da. I'm going to control my articulation on the trumpet just like I talk. The sound still comes out. I don't have to, in the same way that I don't blow my voice. So I try to find the same pitch. You don't blow your voice. You don't have to blow the trumpet. You don't have to, right? And in days of yore, the clinician would take a big drag on a cigarette, right, and then
Yeah.
and then play for a while. No matter how loud he played, the smoke would not come out for like 30 seconds. Then it would do that, even though all this violent tone is coming out, showing that you're different things. Okay, so that's not a politically correct demonstration anymore. I like to clip a piece of toilet paper on the front of my horn and play a loud note, and it doesn't move. And so it's a little counterintuitive. So I just want to control everything from here, and think of this as an extension of my body. Now this is plumbing, right? It's fixed. It can't move except for the buttons. This is infinitely variable, just like the subtleties you have with your voice when you talk to your boyfriend or girlfriend on the phone, or somebody who is late with your pizza or wrecked your car. You're going to change your tone of voice. Or it's your mom, you want more money. whatever. You're going to modulate your tone of voice, and you can use those tools on the trumpet. Whereas if you just blow, that's a very limited expressive, tool. You've got volume, you've got vibrato, and that's about it, right? And you lose control a little bit. To the degree to which you blow the trumpet, you become a slave to its intonation tendencies. And we all know they have the funk. This note's flat and this note's sharp, and because of equal temperament. And we're busy, lipping notes all over the place, and it's very taxing. Whereas if I can think of placing the note vocally, da 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 dee, I can control. So if I just blow, let's see if this comes across. If I just blow, the fifth is really flat and the top G is super sharp. But if I think of placing them vocally, I can put them wherever I want to, and I don't have to do it with this.
Yeah.
So it saves my face. I mean, so that's another thing. It's also easier, and
I
I'm
love this
sorry.
part of your book because you describe the difference in the sound super, super well. And it's really clear to hear what happens when you do it one way or the other. It's really cool.
Right. And this is one of the things that I learned from my colleague Jim Pandolfi. When I got to the Met, I'd just been through a protracted audition process with the Philharmonic for Johnny Ware's job, and they kept calling me back, and again and again, and I just was not the right guy, and finally they cut me loose. Okay, I didn't. There was a problem, and I got lucky a couple years later, and I got the Met gig, but still there was a problem, and I didn't get tenure. They were gonna get rid of me, and I'm like tearing my hair out. But instead of, like I always did in the past, running to Chicago to study with the wind and song gurus, I turned to Pandolfi and go, because Gould and Pandolfi, besides, I've got Gould on one side and Pandolfi on the other. And besides being like a comedy act, sitting between those guys,
Yeah.
they also, neither of them played like anybody I ever saw before,
Hmm.
particularly Dolph. And I turned to him, I said, can you help me out? And he's like the ultimate professional. He says, well, I wasn't going to say anything, but since you ask. And we went to his apartment, fixed it in like 20 minutes.
Wow.
And it was the idea that you don't have to blow the sound through the trumpet.
Yeah.
Now, he has all kinds of language and stuff to, describe that. Very colorful language, I might add, if you know him. But anyway, and then I super, and then I superimposed the vocal models on top of that because I noticed that's exactly what the singers did. And fortunately, ironically, fortunately, coincidentally, we worked at the Metropolitan Opera. So I'm seeing the greatest and hearing the greatest singers in the world. So it's like, huh, how about that? And so I'm moving the engine from here to here. I'm thinking of this as an extension of my body, and I want to control everything in here. And I use models. I'll say things like, uh, well, for instance, if you articulate like you speak, ta 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 ta, that makes a certain mouth shape that's very conducive to playing in the treble clef register. So it's like a win-win, and it also dovetails with other stunt things like lip trills, junk like that. I've noticed that so many conservatory trained players can't play things like that. Just, it's like the pedagogy is limiting.
Hmm.
Not that you never have to play a lip trill in the opera. Let me add, but it just shows how everything is all kind of tied together. So the first half of the book is theory with pictures. Some of them are comedic, kind of for kids, and some of them are diagrams that are the way I perceive it. And then the second half is like putting it into practice and specific exercises. It's not a systematic thing. It's more like a filing cabinet you can dip into and say, oh, I want to work on extended flexibilities in the upper register, and I got a whole bunch of those, and some ideas about try this, try that, but customize them to your needs, because we
Yeah.
all, and as I was mentioning before, while I've got kind of diarrhea of the mouth going on here, as I was mentioning before about um, playing like you or using a vocal technique, vocal models, I noticed that there are roughly, generally speaking, two kinds of singers. There's trained singers, opera, leader, choral singers.
Mhm.
They used to call them trained voices,
Right.
right? And that's why they can sing so freaking loud, and and they use only the resonance of their body. And it's about they don't use microphones, generally speaking, unless they're in a stadium, right? It's all acoustic, all right? And then over here, you've got everybody else: Broadway, pop singers, rock and roll, everybody else, more compressive, right? And they rarely cross over. Anyone who's heard an opera singer sing a pop tune, it's like, please don't do that. It's not right. It just does. It sounds really pompous and lame, and almost no one from that uh, other world will try to sing opera. There's some Broadway singers who have operatic training, and I think Kelly O'Hara did a role with us, but generally they don't. They live in their separate worlds, and one's not better than the other. They're just different. But trumpet players have to cross over all the time, right? And so if I want to be opera man, I can sound this way, on and use this technique for pictures, but maybe I have a big band job at night or on the weekend or something, and I'm going to use a different technique, more compressive,
Mhm.
more less resonant is what the opera singers tell me the difference is. It's
Mm.
just less resonant, not less expressive,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
Louis Armstrong was not less expressive than Maurice Andre. He was
Yeah,
just
true.
different.
Mhm.
Exactly. And speaking of Louis, if you listen to Louis and Diz scat sing, that's exactly how they play.
Mhm.
That's exactly what they do. Okay, and that's a good lesson. And so if we think of, in fact, you can't even execute a bebop head with a legit technique, with that resonant technique. You can't play that fast. You can't do it,
Mhm.
right? Um, so you know we can use if we can use those models to operate in our different spheres if we have to do that, and also to even within one idiom, I want my Gershwin to sound different than my Haydn or my Mahler or
Yeah.
Bruckner or Copland or John Williams, right?
Mhm.
You don't want to sound the same on everything. That's boring,
I
right?
agree.
Or within a concerto or a sonata, you want to have these different, like the opening of the Hummel. Like it's schizophrenic, right? It goes, oh, fooey, can't play it. And you morph into this kind of lyrical thing from this kind of militaristic fanfare. And so you could, make these different colors and use vocal models for articulation, and you can make for a very expressive performance instead of which it might be you might be able to play perfectly, but it's like, you know,
Mhm.
I'd
Yep.
rather hear DX7, play it. And they
Yep.
won't make any mistakes. So anyway, that's kind of the crux of the book, or of my approach anyway. And it has worked. I've worked with jazz players and Broadway guys and orchestra guys and trombone players and horn players, and it seems to translate pretty well. I mean, everybody, personalizes it, and
Of course.
you kind of make it your own. But the vocal model, even with tuba players, about which I was very, I had a guy come to me and I said, "Man, I don't know if this is going to work, but think this thing, try this."
Mhm.
And he said, "It makes it easier, makes it a lot."
Yeah.
So,
Which is
what
what
the
we
heck,
want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Love it.
uh, you know,
Well, I will.
that's it in a nutshell.
Perfect. Well, I will put some links below for people to check it out because
Okay.
it is definitely worth having. And then I'm also wondering, what are you practicing right now?
I'm always practicing Bach cello suites that I transpose and transcribe. Actually, I just play them from the Dover. Well, it's right here on my music stand. From the Dover,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
uh, and as you may know, or people may know, there is no copy of this in Bach's hand. All we have is copies made by one was for Anna Magdalena, another was from a student, and so there are several different versions. And I'll listen to cellists and I'll hear what they do, and sometimes I'll I like what he's doing here. I'll steal that, and other times I won't. And uh, but anyway, it's it's music. It's such great music that you can't destroy. It sounds good on every instrument.
Hmm.
Even the trumpet can't destroy it, right? So
I think
I'm
some
practicing
people
that, and I'm
would.
practicing. I'm still practicing extended techniques and things that my students have trouble with, or So I play to double pedal C to double high C every day, just because people have to do that, and I want to be able to tell them how they can do it, or you know, here's some things you can think about. And always interested in pedagogy and discovering things. I'm playing with a fair number of groups out here, oddly enough, just as a kind of an extra when they need somebody. So I'm still, kind of active, maybe a little more active than I even want to be. I would kind of see myself more as a teacher than a player now. But
Mhm.
yeah. Anyway, it's kind of fun.
Yeah, practicing is so fun. And then how do you decide what to practice maybe even last year or times when you weren't as busy and you didn't have as much music on your stand or even like 20, 30 years ago when you were still getting everything together and deciding what to do based on what you had gigs coming up? How do you decide what to practice or how do you decide what should be a part of your daily routine?
Well, okay. Fundamentals most important. Duh. So I have a couple really, really simple exercises that I do every day, or that I would recommend younger players to do, and maybe spend 20 minutes or so on that. So this sounds ridiculous, but if I have I won't turn on my metronome, but tick, tick. One, two, three, 4, 3, 2. I'll do some major scales like that. So, well, what's that all about? I'm practicing setting, breathing, releasing the note, sustaining. That's like 85% of orchestra trumpet playing right there. Okay. And, and I want to get as, clear and resonant, beautiful a sound as I possibly can. And then, usually work my way out I usually start on C or somewhere in that range. I want to make that home base because, as we know, there's the low register, the middle register, and the cash register. Okay. Most of our
Right.
money stuff is in that top part of the staff. Okay. So, um, uh, I want my home base to be in the staff. So I have my zone of comfort is up there. I mean, the Haydn concerto kind of lives, those are the money notes. And so I want to be comfortable, in that register. Um, and I'll do scales. And then beyond that, I'll weight my practice. I call it weighting practice towards what I don't do well. I had a student that said, practice what sucks, which I thought was a very pithy, what you don't do well or that you
Very
want to
wise
make better.
words.
Or or weight it towards the demands of the repertoire you have coming up. So if you have a piccolo stuff coming up, you're going to spend more time in the upper register. If you have to play Scheherazade or something, there's going to be a lot more articulation going on, and so I'll weight things like that, and I change up my routine a lot. I'm not. Some people treat it like they're almost superstitious about it. I must do this, this, this in this order, and I have to do it for an hour. And if I don't get this routine, I can't play. And I think that can be a crippling kind of thing because life, throws
Life happens.
curveballs at us all the time, right? And you're late for the job or the train's delayed, and there's always something going wrong, and it's very rarely perfect, right? So, I mix it up. And I like to be, kind of ready for what comes along. So, for instance, I'll do a lot of stuff. There's a whole section in the book, flogging my book here, what I call mixed studies. So instead of doing a half hour of lip slurs and then a half hour of tonguing and then that kind of thing, I'll mix them up. Stuff like that, mix it up, because those demands come at us in all, in music that way. It's all manner of, it's not very nicely laid out. And yeah, and then like the better you play, the more easily you play, the more fun it is to play. And it's like now, the easier it is to play. I don't even like to stop practicing. I practice virtually all day because I have fun. Whereas in the past, it was kind of a drag. you know? And maybe part of it is I practice what I want instead of what somebody's told me I have to play.
Mhm.
You know,
I think a lot
that's
of people felt that in the middle of the pandemic when everyone suddenly had a clear schedule and nothing on the stand, yet also everything and anything on the stand. It was in some ways very freeing.
I think so too. Yeah, and also the Zoom thing or the apps where people collaborate and make these projects, whether one person is doing like 20 voice choir, or you get together with people in Europe, or
Hmm.
and it's enabled a lot of very interesting, kind of things to happen. And open a lot of doors. I've met a lot of people, and talked and worked with people all over the world that I probably wouldn't have had not this pandemic, occurred. So, and I think a lot of people have turned it to a positive thing. Oh, I don't have any gigs. I'm going to really shed
Hmm.
this dimension of my playing that I want to work on, or I'm going to learn all of Miles Davis's solos, or whatever.
Great goals for
They,
everyone.
they
Yes.
had that freedom to do that. Yeah, yeah. So, uh, that's making lemonade out of lemons, I guess.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way things are going. Sometimes uh, I do wish I could go back in time and start my career over, knowing what I know now. But that's like the story of everybody.
What would be your one sentence of advice to younger self?
Um, Use your head and your ears more, and don't be such a meathead. In other words, so in college, I would spend a lot of time in the practice room practicing, and I would measure my practice based on how mangled my lips were. Oh, I really beat the hell out of myself today. I really made progress. No, you didn't. You
Hmm.
you know you just practiced. So short sets, be smart, sound good, um, and use the head. A little. Use the brain a little bit more,
Hmm.
and listen more critically, and listen not only to yourself but to other artists, and colleagues, you
Hmm.
know, and steal from the best. I like the way this guy does this thing. I don't like that thing. I'm going to steal this from this guy, and you can learn. You can learn from everybody,
Hmm.
even players you don't like particularly. Whether personally or artistically, there might be a thing. Hmm, I wish I could do that thing, or I want to be able to do that in this,
Hmm.
and keeping an open mind, and also, yeah, and then the other thing is keep an open mind about, pedagogy. There's not one way to play. There's myriad ways to play. So, and I was a little bit, you know, tunnel vision like that, and it's in when teachers would speak to me in flowery language, that used to drive me crazy, right? It should sound like a sunrise, or all this BS. And I treated playing like an erector set, or as like a machine I'm going to put together. Well, teach me how everything works, and then I'll make music. Well, of course, that's not how we operate. It's impossible to do that. So you have to use that metaphor and simile and stuff, and that doesn't have to be flowery language, but it's going to feel like this. Make it feel like that. And it's not just do this with the chest and blow the wind, and it's a little bit more, different. And we all have different language for describing and perceiving things. So
Hmm.
you have to keep an open mind and be flexible, and use your ears. All that matters is what comes out of there, right? However you make it happen, whether it's so. Uh, yeah, but everyone goes through the same struggles, So, uh, I try to head some of that off with younger players, but they're going to do something else wrong, and or struggle with some other element, and some people don't, and those are like the high flyers, the people that seem to be, you know, sprung fully formed from the head of Zeus, like Alan Vizzuti, or some of these people who are just these astonishing virtuosos from, you know, seemingly from the beginning.
Hmm. But it's also good for everyone to remember that those people are also struggling with something at some point in their life, and
Yeah,
maybe
and we
don't
also
just
we
blame
don't hear
something
the
else.
yes, and perhaps I'm speaking a little more cavalierly. They've all done their time in the woodshed, no matter how talented or correctly they do it. They had to develop that coordination, and all those. Winton, he practiced his brains out, right? Everybody did. Sonny Rollins under the Manhattan Bridge, right? Was it Manhattan Bridge for like a year,
Oh,
you
wow.
know. So uh, yeah, it's the woodshed is a good title, and that's where you make your playing personal. That's where you solve your problems. Like I can say something, or a great teacher can say something to you, and you understand it immediately. Oh, I get it. Yes, of course. But it's all theoretical until you've taken it to the woodshed and internalized it. Otherwise, it's just an idea, right? And so, you have to make it your own, and then and that in turn makes you a better teacher. You can explain it in maybe a couple different ways.
Hmm. Yeah, and especially too, like I've been in places where someone says something over and over again and it's just like not clicking, and then eventually it like marinates and sinks in. I'm like, oh, I get what they were saying now.
Right. Or nowadays, somebody says something, or you discover something, and you go, "Oh, that's what Professor's thus and such 10 years ago. That's what he
Right.
meant." That happens
Yeah,
all the
exactly.
time. Oh, that's what that guy. I thought he was full of baloney. You go,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay," but he was coming at it from a different angle,
Hmm.
and so yeah, don't slam the door on anybody's ideas. They may come to they may click later on.
Yes.
There's no rules
Hmm.
except blowing the small end,
Yes.
you know. And beyond that, somebody's gonna don't puff out your cheeks. Well, what about Dizzy Gillespie? Oh, well, okay. Yeah. I mean, uh, you must use air to play, or you must use plenty of wind to play the instrument. That's for instance, that's a common thing.
Yes.
And I'm saying, no, you don't. But that's just, and if I say that to someone, who doesn't, know where I'm coming from, they're going, "What are you talking about? You're an idiot,"
Yeah.
But it's all context, you
Hmm.
know. The band director says, "Put some air horn. We need to blow the sound out into the audience." Well, you know what he wants, but that may not. He just wants a lot of sound, and maybe
Right.
there's a
Yeah.
different way to get that.
More air
You
is
know.
not always the answer.
Well, or for some players it might be. And people tell me about these really that student with the really constipated sound. You got to do something, right? So you'll say something differently to that person than you do to the other, to another player. So it's not one message, and then we arrive at a sound. Hey, that sounds really good. And then we can talk about something. Then we've got some common ground, and then I'll ask them what it feels like. What'd that feel like to you? And students say all kinds of crazy things, and that gives me a lot of teaching tools. I had a student, a young lady, uh, She played. We were working on sound, and she got a fabulous crescendo. It just sounded like somebody turning up the volume on a $1 million stereo. And I said, "That was amazing. What were you thinking of?" And she said, "Oh, it felt like there was this ball of energy inside my mouth and just got bigger and bigger." And I said, "I'm stealing that.
Ooh, that's
That's
cool.
a good one,
Yeah.
and I use it all the time, you know.
Mhm.
So, but I never would have thought of that,
Mhm.
That was coming from a different place. So there's we can learn a lot from students, and I'll use it in my own my own playing. So if I think of it, yep, and you can make a crescendo that'll saw the conductor's head right off,
Yeah,
metaphorically speaking, I
of
should
course.
say.
Yes.
Uh, yeah, but when you need that extra something at the end of the symphony, or you feel like you're at a dead end, and you need to create more excitement,
Mhm.
it's a valuable uh, way to think about it, rather than just going, which is again one dimensional.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Well,
So
thank you so much for everything.
yeah, the book is from Carl Fisher. So anybody that carries Carl Fisher stuff, they should have it, or you can contact them directly. I have to buy my own book, so I don't have copies of it. I can't I can't even sell it. That's the publishing racket, I guess. Um, but anyway, I'm a Facebook presence, and I have a Facebook page, and maybe I'll get with the 21st century and have a website one day. But uh, and I have some videos up on Facebook about different playing things that might just give players some ideas, that they can again make their own, personalize. Oh, I don't like the way he does that, but I can use this idea to do this other thing that I have to do. Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.